right here on X. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Rumble. We're live on Facebook. Welcome to another episode of The Liz Wheeler Show. We will be joined momentarily by the one, the only Alex Jones. We're going to talk about President Trump banning Reuters, Bloomberg, and the Associated Press from his Air Force One plane during his Middle East trip and the story behind that, because there's more to that than meets the eye. We're also going to talk about Qatar building Trump a new plane, which they intend for him to use as Air Force One. But is that a good idea given Qatar's history of supporting terrorism? We're also going to talk about chemtrails because what was once a conspiracy theory has now been confirmed as reality by none other than RFK. Of course, the man who's been warning us about chemtrails for the past, decade, 2 decades now, was Alex Jones. And Joe Biden's mental decline, the mainstream media and the left are now pretending that they just didn't see it. They missed it. And my goodness, they want to hold themselves accountable. But that is also not the real story. It was a deliberate, a willful, a deceitful, I would call it an evil cover up in order to propagate their radical leftist agenda. We're going to get into all of that today with Alex Jones. Today's episode is sponsored by All Family Pharmacy. If I had to choose which institutions in our country are the most corrupt, the 3 that I would name are big education, the administrative state, which is the deep state, the swamp, whatever you want to call it, and big pharma. These 3 institutions spend their time conspiring how to limit your freedom. I spend my time strategizing how to maximize your freedom as a result of that. Here's what I do. Medical freedom is extremely important to me, like top of the list. That means you having the right to make what decisions for your healthcare you deem best for yourself and your family. All Family Pharmacy, one of the partners on this show, believes in your right to choose your own healthcare. That's why they exist. They want you to be able to make choices without restrictions from big pharma, without government interference. Here's how it works. You order the medication that you need online. So no waiting rooms, no pharmacy lines. You just order it online. Your medication is shipped straight to your door. What medication? Well, they offer over 200 different medications. I'm talking ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, antibiotics, medbendazole, blood pressure meds, maintenance meds, whatever you need. They've got it all. Shipping is extremely fast. Orders ship within 2 to 4 days, or if you're in a rush, you can get overnight shipping. Listen, the reason All Family Pharmacy exists is because they value your medical freedom and they want to meet your need. That's why they're trusted by over 100,000 Americans. They've been helping patients since 2019. If you use my promo code Liz10 at checkout, you can get 10% off your order today. So check them out. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Liz. That's allfamilypharmacy.com/Liz. Use my promo code Liz10 at checkout for 10% off. All right, without further ado, let's bring Alex Jones in for the show today, host of InfoWars. Alex, good to see you. Thanks for joining us again.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you.
All right, it's always great to talk with you. I want to talk with you about the mainstream media, of course, is all in a tizzy today because President Trump has banned Reuters, Bloomberg, Associated Press from traveling with him on Air Force One during this historic Middle East trip. And the mainstream media says President Trump is just, he wants to ban journalists because he's against the free press. He's against free speech. He doesn't want accountability. You and I know that there's more to this story than meets the eye. So what is behind this?
Well, I mean, there's a lot there, but Reuters, AP, going back to the late 40s with the establishment of the CIA, and even before that, OSS and then MI6, is really the mouthpiece of Western intelligence. And of course, that came out in 76 in the Frank Church Senate hearings on the deep state and Operation Mockingbird, the CIA with the major networks, but specifically AP and Reuters. And so we saw with a lot of the Doge disclosures, billions of dollars in the last 4 years to Reuters particularly, but also AP, and then billions to other corporate media institutions to put out talking points and direct lies. And that goes back to the repeal of the Smoot-Mundt Act in 2013 by Obama that pushed it, and Congress did that, legalizing, quote, domestic propaganda by the CIA, posing as media. So lying to the people, not just propaganda, but outright lying. And we saw other Doge fines this year where $9 million a few years ago from the Pentagon to Reuters. So there's all these different agencies, putting into the kitty to promote basically official COVID lies. And it's titled Widespread Disinformation Operation, Widespread Deception Operation. against the American people. So they even give it really nasty names that are accurately showing what it is. So it's not enough for Trump to put in his own people at NSA and CIA and State Department. You have to understand that the Biden administration, the people running the auto pen, front-loaded the hundreds of billions stolen out of the new Green Deal slush fund, 370-something billion that disappeared all over with Podesta managing it, the billions out of USAID, out of the EPA and other agencies, front-loaded. I mean, it came out, they admittedly did that, billions of dollars into this, knowing Trump was coming in, but they would still have these stay-behind networks to counter him. And that's not new. That specifically goes back to 2016 when Trump was the incoming president then. Obama, in the Defense Authorization Act for 2017, one of the last things he signed was that bill. There was over $2 billion in there for creating the Office of Countering Foreign Disinformation Propaganda Act. And that specifically was tailored to pay for all of the fake dossiers and lies about Russiagate, and to target American journalists. And then it even expanded more in 2020. And now I knew this because I covered it at the time and was targeted by it, and would actually follow in congressional hearings. They weren't even really hiding a lot of it then, but it wasn't something the general public, even most journalists or media pundits, knew about. But then the new Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, brought in Dr. Darren Beatty, who'd formerly been an advisor and speechwriter for Trump, and who's an expert on the deep state, in to do an investigation into what the State Department was doing through that Office of Countering Foreign Disinformation Propaganda Act, targeting Trump and his supporters. And then what the Secretary of State, just with an interview with Mike Benz in the last few days, came out and said they now have the names of the people being targeted. This is the State Department then directing law firms, PR firms, private detective groups, and we now know hooked into the Justice Department for also criminal investigations. And that's what happened to me, because it's now come out, of course, I'm one of the main 12 names. There were thousands others they targeted, but 12, particularly Elon Musk, Alex Jones, President Trump, Joe Rogan is in there, even though he wasn't as hardcore years ago. They were still worried about him and still trying to undermine him. So these orders go out, you get sued, they choose judges that will then find you in default, or you're already guilty, that have a show trial at HBO like I did. It's now come out that they raised hundreds of millions of dollars off my name. They got over $4 million in Justice Department grants for the lawsuits. I've released all that information last month. Also, as soon as Trump got in, they sent me an FBI file where Obama declared me a top national security threat in 2013. And Trump didn't find this in his first admin. They found it now. Those documents are all public, where there was still an ongoing espionage investigation, not even saying who I work for. Gosh, I don't know. I thought I was an American patriot. But an ongoing investigation for over a decade, of course, found nothing. So espionage, criminal investigations. My co-host put in prison for being with me on J6, not going in the building. They just said he went in and sent him to prison for it, didn't care. So Secretary of State Rubio says in the interview with Benz, he explains, they didn't just censor people and attack people. You then got lawfared, you got sued, you got debanked. And he says they're going to release all the details soon. We just got in the company P.O. box a few months ago, and it was postmarked the 24th of January. So 4 days into his administration, they were already sending these out. And I'm told by other people that were targeted, other people got not their whole FBI file, but basically cover sheets of 193 different investigation files on me, specifically out of the Boston office. That would be Mueller's old people, trying to find something on me. But that predates Russiagate and even predates the Trump era, but it just continues on. So it shows how you have this illegal conspiracy against rights and abusive processes are all key terms. I've already filed lawsuits. I'm filing more against the Democrat Party organizations. Paul Weiss, who's already, that law firm confessed to, quote, illegal lawfare against President Trump, promised to pay $40 million in restitution to community service. Now they've claimed $20 million of that is from their suits of me. So I don't think Trump knew when he made that deal with them to make restitution and stop doing political targeting that they would count that as $20 million out of the $40 million for targeting me. And this is all public. And again, I could go on. Each one of these things is a whole story in and of itself. But that's how they've done this. And so they got embarrassed in the 70s when it came out. They went underground. Then it expanded under Obama. And so, then people ask, well, why ban Reuters, AP, and Bloomberg? Number one, they're not banning them from being on the air. They're not banning them from making up whatever lies that they want. They're just not there on Airforce One to then misrepresent what Trump has said in text to get ahead of his agenda and try to sabotage him when he's trying to get his actual message out. Nobody's more transparent. Nobody has 5, 6, 7 press conferences a day like Trump. He had more in his first day in office than Biden had in 4 years. The idea that he's censoring is a total lie. He's not burning books or saying don't give elementary students graphic pro-pedophilia novels that I'm still shocked looking at as an adult. No, that's not. Not giving Jack Daniels to a 10-year-old is not liquor prohibition. It's a prohibition on giving it to minors. Not giving cigarettes to 15-year-olds is not banning tobacco. It's a prohibition on that. So it's the same thing, with the so-called book burning or book banning. The Democrats are the censors. They're the economic lawfare terrorists. They're the ones that have done this. So Trump kicking him off Air Force One is because he understands what's come out now, that he may be getting a lot of the bad people out in the government, but all that preloaded, front-loaded money and all those operatives were already there from the CIA and the NGOs. But now even more of them have gone out of government into that and are working with that big stash of cash to engage in disinformation operations against President Trump and the American people. And then, of course, you have Jeffrey Goldberg, a well-known Israeli / CIA Obama operative, with his whole disinformation thing where, Hegseth's the target because somebody added him on a Signal chat, and then it's Waltz, who they've now removed. And so Trump is learning about the Israelis running operations against him. And that's really no secret. It's always been going on to American presidents, but it's expanded. And so Trump is really getting more sophisticated about kicking the intelligence agencies out. It's not enough to take Brennan's security clearance away. You've got to then understand that they've just moved into or were always in the media system. Trump's been taking national security clearances away from the big law firms that he learned have been working against him as well. So he understands that 90% of intelligence operatives are not actually in the CIA or the Defense Intelligence Agency or the NSA. They are operatives of it, at least 90%. And so Reuters, AP, and Bloomberg, as I've said for years, it's come out now, are the heart of the CIA disinformation operation that Trump still hasn't gotten control of. So the least he can do is not get near them or not let them be on a plane where they can be using the wireless to send back lies about what he said he's going to do. And when he lands, people have already been told something that isn't true or that's a mix of truth and lies, trying to sabotage his agenda. So very smart. I don't think he should have corporate media anywhere on Air Force One. Nowhere around him. I think there should be some of them, maybe a lottery, in the White House or in the briefing room, just have it be scrambled by a computer, kind of a sweepstakes things, every week and tell you who's going to be there. Because I think we need the corporate media to laugh at them and expose them and, show they're a fraud. But at the same time, you don't need to give them preferential treatment or put them at the front of the trough. And you sure as hell don't want them in Mar-a-Lago. These are serious spies. Okay. These are people that want Trump dead, as the former one of the deputy heads of the CIA, Mudd, said, we're going to kill this guy on CNN. So we know the Secret Service stood down. We know the FBI stood down in Butler. All of this. So the more he can keep these people away from him, NPR reporters slamming him in the face with a microphone, obviously on purpose. I mean, these are dangerous, dangerous people, and he needs to stay away from them.
Yeah, I love to see it, honestly. It seems to me that it's almost a decade too late, because in some of these places, some of these corporate media outlets had a reputation. Maybe it was a perception, I should say, that they created of themselves of being objective. That hasn't been the case, if it ever was, for a really long time. So why should President Trump allow them to go on Air Force One? And I think something you said is extremely accurate, and that is that Trump's move today is a result of the work of Darren Beattie at the State Department. We love Darren Beattie on this show. He was, I would argue, the number one reporter, dogged, relentless reporter pursuing the truth on January 6th. And the reason that the majority of the country understands that January 6th was a Fedsurrection was primarily because of Darren Beattie's reporting at Revolver News. So huge kudos to him for that. My question to you is this. when there are investigations or when wrongdoing is exposed, especially when it comes to the weaponization of the federal government against you and other conservatives, Christians, Trump supporters, do you have confidence that we will see perp walks and orange jumpsuits versus, because we didn't see that during the first Trump administration, versus just the humiliation in the public square of their wrongdoing being exposed? Because I'm kind of over the latter. I think we need to have real justice here. We need actual accountability of the for the people who did these things.
That's a great question. Look, from all my sources at every level, because low level, ground level sources are just as important as sources in the White House, the deep state hasn't given up. They're doubling down. And their agenda's falling. They're a laughing stock. The whole world's turning against them. Populists are getting elected everywhere. The EU's having to arrest their political opposition and cancel elections. Keir Starmer's fallen flat on his face. So in the big picture, we're winning. Where Trump's got big policies, trade war, ending our surrender, we basically already won. But the corporate media won't report that. So in big, broad stroke areas where he can get policy done, I'd give Trump a 98. When it comes to finding the missing 350,000 children, many of which they admit are in sex torture slavery and slave labor, an F-. And that's just two examples. But that's because where he can shut the border down with ICE and the military, 96% shutdown, that's better than he got in his first administration, 94%. And I go down there, we cover the border, the trafficking, the NGOs, there's just nobody there. There's no buses, there's no vans. You got to wait 2 days for a van of kids to come by. You used to go down there a year ago or 4 years ago. It looked like a train station at rush hour. I mean, just buses, kids without their parents, little kids crying, being loaded in vans with strange men. I mean, it would make you cry. It was like a hallucination of evil. I mean, we've got a lot of footage that's gone viral of that. Now you go down there and it's just crickets. But because they moved the names of the kids and had them disappeared and stopped the DNA testing and took it away from DHS and put it into HHS, as Kennedy has said, they're all lost. So now HHS is trying to give that information to DHS, and Soros and the Democrats have filed a bunch of lawsuits, and judges are trying to block even finding the kids. And you see a headline, Soros and the Democrats are fighting so that people can't find where the migrants are so they can be deported. We're talking about most of them being children. So this is the level of obstructionism and sabotage. Like Elon Musk said a few months ago on Joe Rogan, he said, listen, we elected Trump to be the captain, but at least half the crew is in mutiny against him. So they're really trying. They're really pushing hard. They're doing everything they can with limited resources. And they have all the sanctuary cities sabotaging him. And, they're releasing a violent criminal out of jail. They won't even tell ICE they've got him. They've got Democrat mayors and Congress people trying to storm ICE facilities. You've got Antifa taking over buildings again. You got Tesla bombings. You've got them really turning the heat up now. And they're dug in, and they intend to just be obstructionist and just hope that Trump's agenda doesn't succeed. So Trump's got to get election integrity in there. They're moving on that. That he's got to. I mean, look, I personally have been persecuted a lot and would like to see the deep staters arrested and indicted. I don't expect it on my cases. There's just so much, huge things out there. That's why I'm going forward with civil issues, and in the public arena, I've already convicted them. The facts are just devastating. That said, if you don't get indictments of Brennan for Crossfire Hurricane and how it's cut and dry, if you don't get indictments of Mayorkas for not losing kids but disappearing them on purpose, if you don't have indictments of Letitia James caught red-handed doing everything she claimed Trump did falsely, if we don't see that, it is just going to embolden the criminals in the deep state. That's why they're getting more bold. And it is going to also continue to enrage Trump's constituents. So I try with my audience to just give them my mind on this. And so it's very paradoxical. All this wonderful stuff Trump's doing, and he's obviously for real, but then he's got this 2 million person bureaucracy. I mean, half of the federal employees never answered the Doe's question, who's your supervisor and what's 5 things you did last week? So that is the level of duplicity. And you've got the intelligence agencies blackmailing people in D.C. that look like they're nice, seem like they have good records, but at the key point, Boom, the blackmail comes in. Then you've got other people that just aren't sophisticated enough to understand what's going on. But the good news is the public's getting sophisticated and learning how all this works. And instead of spending their time and energy on sports and knowing all their sports heroes, numbers, people now are learning about all of this and realizing this is a real war and this is exciting. And men and women are supposed to understand factoids and be interested in, strategy games and things, because that's something based on what we're supposed to do in the real world. And so it's exciting to get engaged in reality in the future, something I got addicted to 30 plus years ago. And I've always believed that when people discovered all of this, A, it's the right thing to do. B, you're going to be slaves if you don't. But in our children's future, C, but D, it is so exciting to fight tyranny. My life is such an adventure. I've had the FBI, the CIA, operatives, NGOs come after me, but I also get to meet all the best people, all the people that really care. And I get to see the effects of my fight, my crew's fight over the years. So, this is an adventure. And so people, sign up for the military to fight with their country, and that's laudable. Sometimes, the mission's wrong, but this is the real battle for the Republic. This is 1776 part 2. This is a true global political realignment for Team America, Team Humanity, Team Freedom versus Team Depopulation, Team Globalist. And intellectually, culturally, we are running the tables on them, but we are grinding forward, getting some movement, but still it's quicksand that we're in. And so what we need the grassroots to understand, not just in America, but around the world, is we've won major battles, but the real war has just begun.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we've noted often on this show that one of the biggest differences between Trump's first administration and this one is our involvement. In the first Trump administration, we got involved every couple months. And I'm talking about the conservative movement at large, got involved every couple months when there was a spending bill or something coming up in Congress. In this administration, we are involved in every single, not just day to day, but hour by hour, minute by minute, nitty gritty decision that's being made. We are the driving force behind making sure that the America First agenda, which we elected Trump to execute, is actually being executed. And I echo what you say. It's fun because finally we don't feel helpless and hopeless. We can actually fight back against the deep state, which is different than anything that I think we've ever seen in our lifetime before. Let me ask you about something I've been troubled about since I first heard this report. Qatar is offering a gift to President Trump of a new airplane. They call it the Palace in the Sky. It's supposed to be the new Airforce One. Trump's going to accept the gift reportedly, and then there's going to be a contractor from the Air Force that does security on the plane to get it outfitted to be Air Force One. I read this report, Alex, and my reaction to this was, what? Is this a good idea? Qatar has, to say that they have a shady history might be the understatement of the year. They hid the leader of the 9/11 attacks, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. What is your take on this? Is this, it seems to me that our enemies could easily give a gift like this and it could be bugged and they could track it and it could be outfitted with all kinds of backdoors in the technology. Is this dangerous for Trump to accept this?
Wow. Well, there's a lot of angles to that. And so let me put it to you this way. When there's been a revolution in Saudi Arabia inside the royal family, and that's also sent shockwaves into the other Wahhabist sects, they're the majority followers of Islam. And so that's Qatar and that's Saudi Arabia and a bunch of the others. And obviously where Mecca's based right there. And so it's true that Saudi Arabia and others were funding Al-Qaeda and ISIS and groups. And that was their answer to the Iranians and their Hezbollah and the Shiites. But so was British intelligence, so were the Israelis, and so was the CIA. Look how much money from USAID and everything it's turned out was going to the Taliban and Al-Qaeda and ISIS, billions. So to go, oh, look, the Saudi Arabians and the Qataris and all these others, oh, they're involved with Al-Qaeda. Well, you bet they are, because Western intelligence, they just admitted that Turkey and Israel were using Al-Qaeda to take over Syria just a few months ago, and the former head of Al-Qaeda is now the leader of the country. We're told, well, he's reformed now. So what's happened under Trump is those Gulf states have all gotten in line. They see that Trump is winning. They're all investing the majority of their money here. They're not going with BRICS now and China. because what Biden had done in the Ukraine war and all that had driven them all into the arms of China. They had set us up with one-sided trade deals where we were going to collapse as the superpower, basically right now. And so we're open for business again. And so they've said they're going to stop funding that, stop doing that, because the U.S. government is going to stop working with them and funding the boogeyman. I mean, this goes back to Zbigniew Brzezinski and Jimmy Carter and then Reagan funding the Mujahideen and all the rest of it. So Al-Qaeda is a convenient enemy to overthrow Middle Eastern countries or attack the U.S., and then they get to put TSA and body scanners in and grope our genitals while the borders stay wide open. So in general, here's why Trump's taking the plane, and I think it's totally legal. For 10 years, even before he got in, they've needed a new Airforce One. It's 41 years old. The plane, just the airframe has so many miles on it, it's dangerous, okay? The plane's having mechanical problems all the time. Trump found out they were going to pay him like $6-7 billion for one or two planes. He threw a fit 7 years ago and got a new deal with Boeing, and they just can't deliver an airplane. Well, because they know it's a government contract, they keep milking it like the fighter jets that, cost 10 times more than they're supposed to. So he's been flipping out about it. And then, of course, those Muslim countries are so rich, they're always giving foreign leaders gifts and stuff. It is undeclared gifts that are illegal. So if they give a plane, which they have this brand new jumbo jet of the exact type he wants, that then the Pentagon in a few months can retrofit and put the anti-missile flares on and the avionics and the computers and the other secretive stuff they need on it, and it'll be totally safe. Air Force One's dangerous with all the reporters getting on it. How do we know somebody doesn't sew plastic explosives into a woman's purse or a briefcase and then it doesn't get screened properly, and then terrorists or the CIA or the deep state kills Trump? So that issue I would say isn't one. It's the perception of, they're giving Trump a plane, a $400 million plane, which shows, why does it cost billions if it's for the U.S. government, but $400 million if it's a brand new plane they've got. They also just signed a deal to buy 130 plus jumbo jets from Boeing. So the issue is the U.S. is back. We're the lone superpower. We have the world reserve currency. We have the strongest military. We still have the best technology. And we have an ideology people want more than communist China. China didn't have any of the cards, but we had to play these cards or we'd lose them. So across the board, the U.S. is winning. The circle of friends is, it's not a UN, it's not a corporate government, it's just an alliance of countries where Trump is forcing them by not being part of one-sided trade deals. Are you in our alliance or communist China? The EU's chosen to ally with China. They're falling apart. That's already failed. Now, one by one, the EU countries are capitulating because they already had totally one-sided deals. Trump's just like, on average, just give up half of your ripoff against us. And then when they don't, he then goes up. He originally said, I want 30% tariff on China. They get a 10% on us. He said, I would suggest on the day of liberation that you not retaliate, as they say, because we're not attacking you. We're retaliating to what you've done. They ratcheted up to 100 and some percent. Everything falls apart for them. We have some problems, but it's much worse for them because they're totally dependent on us. And then they capitulate and give exactly what he wanted. 30% we get, 10% they get. Who's winning? 30% or 10%? So they don't have the cards. You have $100 and something billion trade deficit, at least with Canada. Total one-sided. It screws their people too. They pay 3 times for milk what we do because there's no competition. And I don't care what Carney says. He's having to capitulate now after all his big talk because they don't have the cards. We're the biggest market. We have the biggest military. We still have the world reserve currency. And if we go back to promoting freedom and prosperity, what made us the apple of the world's eye, we intellectually and culturally have the best culture instead of Hollywood posing as American culture and promoting Satanism, pedophilia, and transgenderism that turned the whole world off against us. Now the world is so happy we're back. And so it's ours to lose. I pray they don't kill Trump. I pray that, some of these idiot leftists that want to, get 80% less. Again, we're 74% of all the money on earth spent on pharmaceuticals by customers by 4.2% of the world, us. Folks, Trump comes in and says, we're going to just take part of that ripoff. And we'll still pay the most, but not as, as much. And even Republicans are like, oh, no, that's price controls. We can't have that. No, the price control is the fixing of it by the drug cartels with our politicians to allow that ripoff. So I'm just going to say to Democrats, do you really not want to pay 80% less on drugs. I mean, do you really want to pay more on energy? Do you really want our last coal power plants turned off? Do you really not want Keystone turned on? Do you really want nuclear war with Russia? Do you really want to lose the world reserve currency? Do you really want to be a third world hellhole? And so the answer is no. So that's why the Republican Party, despite the neocons and some of the remnants, the old blue blood country club, elitist Republicans that played second fiddle to the kleptocratic Democrats, that's over. And in all the numbers and all the polls and all the real facts, the Republican Party is now the party of the populace, the party of the blue collar, the party of the unions, the party of common sense, the party of strength, peace through strength. And and I see people on X and everywhere going, man, this is incredible. Jones was always the anti-government, anti-establishment guy, and now he's up here constantly saying how great Trump is. No. I'm not anti-government. Said that 1,000 times or more. I'm anti-unconstitutional, bloated, globalist, new world order. You will eat the bugs. 2 men can have a baby. There's no X and Y chromosomes. Fentanyl's not a problem. All of this crap, that's what I'm against. Now that we've got a beachhead and are winning and government is being returned to the states and we're seeing the beginning of a lot of reform, it's like if George Washington, we won the war after 6 years against the British, and then did the new Americans say, we don't like George Washington, he was always a rebel and now he's the president? No. Yes, I am pro-constitutional government, and I'm the one for decades that said I believe in 1776 worldwide. I believe in a multipolar world, but dominated by American culture and free market competition that then influences the world through trade and through culture and through superior ideas of Western excellence to not attack the Western system, not attack freedom, not attack classical liberalism, but the left and the globalists and the BlackRocks do, because they don't want an American system to compete with. They want a global divide and conquer, woke, mind control, fractured system that they control. And I have said to Trump and others for many years, we need to launch Operation 1776, use the one-sided trade deals to take over the globalist system, use it to turn it off, expose it, and empower human potential everywhere, slash energy prices worldwide. That's the ultimate way to stop war and poverty and crime. It's the ultimate tax on the population. Do the exact opposite of the globalist deindustrialization Great Reset plan. And so my plan, I mean, I'm just saying, and it is my plan, which seemed like a total common sense plan, has been adopted. I said, we can't just oppose the globalist tyranny. We have to promote an alternate plan to the globalist operation, Team Humanity. And 2 years ago, I was talking to Elon Musk on air, and we were agreeing. And I said, so what should we call this, Team Humanity? He said, yes, Team Humanity. So serious pragmatism, real politics, classic freedom, common sense, transparency that you see with this new administration, the complete opposite. You really see the sausage getting made. You see the whole process, and it's beautiful. So you bet the revolution, I'm not bragging, it's just a fact, the revolution that I studied Americana, the other systems, and said we should be able to beat this intellectually. We should oppose this system and let people know that globalists are the ones that are going to make you poor, and then pose as a savior and say it's global warming that did it, create viruses in labs and say it's global warming did it because it's your fault. These people that want us to have less kids and humans are bad and it just all this depressing, break our will garbage. Why don't we expose them and then promote the alternate thing, the return of America, back to the future? So to everybody out there, you better believe that I am a cheerleader and a supporter for my revolution, my plan, 1776 worldwide, that we now see integrated into what Trump's doing and all of his experts. And I see 95% of what he's doing is just absolutely what I would do and what I've supported and what I've promoted. And it's beautiful to see. And this competing system to tyranny will, in the end, defeat the globalists, in some cases quicker, in some areas slower, in others. On the trade front, Trump is just we are savagely winning much quicker than I thought, because the world can see it. They can smell victory. They can smell success.
By the way, I think the most profound, best motto of this Trump administration is that phrase, you don't hold the cards. Because everything that you just articulated is encapsulated in that phrase, that our greatest superpower isn't even our military strength. It's not a threat that we're going to drop a nuke on you. It's our economy, because everyone around the world relies on us. And President Trump is the first president. He understood this in his first term. He was just stymied by COVID. But he's the first president in my lifetime that's actually used the strength of the American economy to get other people in line and get them to stop taking advantage. And you, sir, are on one of the most remarkable vindication tours that I've ever seen. Things that people even teased you about, made fun of you about 20 years ago, are actually coming true, like chemtrails. I'm sure you saw this video, but RFK Jr. Actually acknowledged, verified that what you had been warning the American people about chemtrails for over a decade, probably close to 2 decades, is in fact true. I want to show that video to everyone in just a second. But first, I want to talk about one of the sponsors of this show that we are so grateful to partner with, and that is Preborn. When a young mother with an unplanned pregnancy is deciding about the future of her unborn child, that can be very overwhelming. She wants to make the right choice, but society, and sometimes those closest to her, the father of her child, her friends, sometimes even her family, her parents, even her own mother, pressures her to abort that child, telling her that the baby isn't really a baby, it's just a clump of cells, or telling her that it doesn't matter if it's a baby, it's her body, her choice, or that baby will ruin her life and her career ambitions. Well, none of that is true, but the crisis still exists in the hearts of these women facing this choice, which is why Preborn exists. Preborn's whole ministry is to love these women, to love these babies, and empower their mothers with the choice of life. Because let's face it, this is not just a practical, ethical, legal moment. This is an eternal moment that these women face. For example, I'd like to introduce you to Briella. Briella was ready to take the abortion pill. The abortion pill, as you know, accounts for the majority of abortions in the United States at this point, up to 60, 70%. You can get this online. You don't even have to see a doctor to get one of these pills. And when the abortion pill never came in the mail after Briella ordered it, she decided instead to go to a clinic, a preborn clinic, and she received a free ultrasound there. And on that ultrasound screen, she saw her unborn child, and her eternal moment happened. She realized that not only was that a baby, that this was the baby boy in her womb that she had always prayed for. And thanks to Preborn, she chose life. This month of May, can you help bring life to both babies and mothers by sponsoring these ultrasounds? An ultrasound, when a mother sees her unborn child on the ultrasound screen, it doubles the baby's chance at life. The goal of the Liz Wheeler Show is to sponsor 400 ultrasounds in the month of May, and we'll keep you updated on how many babies you save, how many babies we save together. One ultrasound is $28. 5 ultrasounds is $140, and every penny goes towards loving these mothers and their babies well. So my question to you, my challenge to you today is, will you join us? Simply dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, keyword baby, or go to preborn.com/Liz. That's preborn.com/Liz. What a wonderful partner Preborn has been on our show. What a wonderful ministry that they are engaging in some of the darkest corners of our country, to these women who need them the most. All right, Alex, you have been on what I would call a vindication tour for the past couple years now. It's been actually quite fun to watch. The last time you were on the show, I know we spoke about what had been a meme online, which was this prediction you had decades ago, or not even a prediction, it was an observation that the frogs were turning gay because of chemicals in the water. People made fun of you for that until it turned out that that was entirely true, that you were ahead of the curve on that. Well, the same thing is true for chemtrails. You've been warning the American public about chemtrails for decades, and people would brand you as a conspiracy theorist, say that that's just, woo-woo stuff. But then we have the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Bobby Kennedy, acknowledge the reality and the existence of these chemtrails. It's actually true. Take a listen.
My name is Emily, and my biggest concern is the stratospheric aerosol injections that are continuously peppered on us every day. Bromium, aluminum, strontium sprayed in our skies all day long. And I know you've talked to Dane Wigington about this. He seems to be one of the experts in the field.
Is there a question?
Yes. How do we stop it?
That is not happening in my agency. You know, we don't do that. It's done, we think, by DARPA. And a lot of it now is coming out of the jet fuel.
Yes,
so, you know, those materials are put in jet fuel. I'm going to do everything in my power to stop it. We're bringing on somebody who's going to think only about that, find out who's doing it, and holding them accountable.
Yes, sir.
My name is Emily, and
Alex, that's kind of incredible to me, to hear Bobby Kennedy just acknowledge so blandly, yes, that's happening. It's happening from DARPA. What is your reaction to this?
Well, I mean, it's just like the atrazine. I was on the air 25 years ago. It was in studies. I had toxicologists and environmental toxicologists on warning that in South African studies, U.S. studies, you name it, there's only a few countries who are allowing that weed killer. It was bending the gender of frogs, and it makes literally a large portion of them at allowable levels. That's in the U.S. water supply, most of it, be attracted to other male frogs, and then they don't have babies, and their numbers plummet. In some cases, close to extinction. Others become trans, and in utero, it does turn out people are born this way. They also push autistic kids towards it, but they're not really a boy that's really a girl, but they're hermaphroditic. Even if they don't have the genitals, atrazine is making male genitals smaller. It makes female embryos, once they develop and are born, go into puberty earlier. It causes a lot of increased cancer, and in cellular development, in neural pathways, it does definitely in all mammals make male fetuses more female in brain anatomy. So they're mutants. It's not that it's a boy that thinks he's a girl or a boy that's really a girl. It's that it's bending their genders. And in fish and in amphibians, it's much quicker. It's much more pronounced, and they think that's because the eggs, of a frog or a fish are laid in the water, and so the amounts that are hitting humans and getting in and building up in women, it isn't as high. But then they've done studies on other mammals where you jack it up to that, and then I mean it's like gerbils with penises growing on their heads. I'm not trying to be funny, folks. The media will probably grab that. I mean it's like 4 legs in the front, 3 in the back. I mean it's just mutant city with atrazine alone. And there are hundreds of chemicals that other countries have banned that are allowed here in the United States. And then, of course, you got the glyphosate and the rest of it. But on the issue of geoengineering, there was a Nobel Prize in '92 given to 2 scientists for a plan to add aluminum dioxide, barium salt to jet fuel so that when it aerosolizes, and the companies don't even know it, the government does it with DARPA and the Department of Energy with the main jet fuel makers. They're just told to do it, hush, hush, like the Manhattan Project. And then it puts it out, and they can also have larger spray planes and things. We know they have those for direct weather control to, quote, dim the earth. So they win this Nobel Prize in '92. They start testing it widespread by '94. And by '95, it was operational. And so this has been known forever. And then now they know this is coming out. The UK announced, oh, we've been doing tests with this, and we added to the jet fuel, and yeah, we're going to do this to dim the earth, and Bill Gates is involved. And then you can pull up articles a decade ago, oh, Bill Gates wants to add stuff to jet fuel to dim the sky. So while they deny it, they're promoting it and trying to get you at a not even subliminal level, because it's in the news thousands of times. Oh yeah, we're going to do this, but we're not doing it now. And then you have the CIA director under Obama 10 years ago, Brennan. You just type in CIA director Brennan admits geoengineering. And he says, we got a weather treaty from '78. We're not really allowed to do this, but we do it, but we don't tell the public. And he's on C-SPAN at the CFR. So it's like they're the adult table at Thanksgiving. We're all over at the card table as kids. And when we hear them talking, they go, you didn't hear that. Okay. Right. And so that's how this works. And so Kennedy is now burrowing into it. It's his job over Health and Human Services to look at this. And it's not just, for weather control. There's also radioactive isotopes they've been adding. It's building up in the soil. It's causing major neurological problems, infertility. And again, it all stems from the eugenics cult, the globalist. The real name of Bill Gates' foundation is not the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It's the World Population Control Foundation. His dad ran it before with Planned Parenthood. He was the head of Planned Parenthood. He took it over from Thomas Watson, the father of modern eugenics, the founder of IBM, received the highest award from Adolf Hitler of anyone in Germany, even though he's an American. And Bill Gates is just the board director of this because he took it over from his dad. And so their whole project about owning our bodies and all this, playing God, blacking out the sun, spraying chemicals on us, giving us mRNA gene therapies. It's all about them wanting to control our bodies, slowly kill us, and then to test as they kill us and see if they can control the medical system and keep the public from realizing it. So that's what this is, a long-term operation. And I know it's scary to admit that, and people don't want to, but it's real, and it's happening.
Wait, so when you say this phrase dim the earth or dim the sky, is that like, are you talking very literally here? Are you talking about creating more clouds, like actually changing the weather, or dim the earth? Are you talking about dimming humanity? What do you mean?
Both. All of their projects are multifaceted. The chemicals are giving us neurological disorders, lowering fertility, very cancerous. Hundreds of them they've been found putting in, but aluminum dioxide, barium salt's the main thing. Strontium, you name it. I mean, they have government symposiums where they get up there and admit they're doing all this. They have all the patents in the 60s to add to the jet fuel. They have the Nobel Prize in 92. And I have all the newscasts saying, oh, jets will fly and spray to stop solar radiation getting into the earth, to cool the earth, to stop global warming. That's the cover story, but it's for weather modification and control. And it's also highly toxic and makes us sick. And then depending on the study, North America, Europe is close to 30% dimmer than it was before this project started. Just type in Europe, 27% dimmer than it was in 1995. I mean, those articles are there. And so it's actually happening. People go, oh, no, that's a condensation trail. Well, I'm 51. Younger people don't remember this, who were born, in the 90s. Until the mid-90s, my whole life, you'd see jets fly over Dallas where I grew up, and you'd only see it in the winter up at 15, 20, 30,000 feet, and you'd see the ice crystal trail from condensation on the wing edge, leave a little bit of crystals, and then you'd sit there and watch them fade out in a few minutes. Well, once they started adding this, you got it forming at 5,000 feet in the summer. That's impossible. You've got it all going on, and you've got these days where there's all this spraying going on, and then it all just fades out into a mist and blocks the sun from getting to the earth. And that is the project, and that's what we said it was. That's what we said they were doing. And now they've said, oh, now we're going to start doing this to save the earth because they can't hide it. Now they're going to try to hide it in plain view and do this whole bait and switch. But it is, you should have Dane Whittington on of Geoengineering Watch. He is the expert. And he can explain it all. I mean, it is, but it gets worse. You go to Qatar, speaking of that, or Saudi Arabia, or any of these places, they have weather control bureaus. They don't deny it. So they have Doppler radar that the feds put in the 90s as a service for NOAA. And I talked to the engineers then that explained, because I knew one of the guys putting them in, and he was well-to-do and owned the company doing it, had a major contract in Texas. He said, listen, I've talked to the engineers at the feds. They said, we're hooking power up to these Doppler radars 10 times at least what they need. And we were told, well, these have a secondary use, weather modification. Well, you look at China and Russia and Qatar and others, you can look at the articles, how radar is used to control the weather. So when you have spray planes that create the nuclei that forms water vapor, then you've got these antennas that they're able to energize them, and that vibration causes them to attract even more condensation, okay? So with Operation Popeye in Vietnam, they were able to take clear blue skies in one day and put down 10 feet of water on the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Ben Livingston was the father of weather weapons. It was declassified in 2006. That he ran the projects from World War II until when I interviewed him, he was over 90, still super sharp. He even ran a private weather control company out of North Texas that does, stuff for like ski resorts and things. That's totally separate from this. And I got him on the show. And then a few days later, he said, I can't talk to you anymore. I got threatened by the government. But he was leading squadrons in Vietnam, flooding them with just chemicals. Okay. But you add the Doppler radar arrays, which is HAARP, Alaska, but that's what it is. So people are like, oh, HAARP in Alaska. The real HAARP is the Doppler radar systems. And then they've got at least a dozen giant floating oil rigs that have huge bubbles on them, big white bubbles that are superpower systems And they can get those where they want in the storm system. They can kill hurricanes, strengthen hurricanes, weaken hurricanes, steer hurricanes. That was declassified in 2005, 2006. And so Livingston could talk about it. But by 1967, Stanford Research Institute with the Navy and the Department of Energy confirmed total hurricane control. So by 67, and it's not just spray paints with it added to the kerosene. When they want direct control, the Pentagon has a fleet of aircraft that go in with direct sprayers, and then they can, again, kill hurricanes, supercharge hurricanes. They can control hurricanes, and then with the Doppler systems, steer them wherever they want.
It's insane, and it's all they camouflage it all by saying that it's just protecting the Earth from climate change. Climate change is their catch-all excuse. Last question. I know you were.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's where the Wuhan virus, climate change, didn't come out of a lab. Climate change. Oh, the third world's collapsing, not from the lockdowns from COVID, but from the virus. That's, again, they use climate change as the excuse why society's collapsing. Then they tell us it's our fault it's collapsing as they pull out the industrial rug under Agenda 2021 from the Rio de Janeiro 1992 UN Earth Summit.
Yeah. I mean, we've known that for a long time, that climate change is not only fake science, but that it's used as a cover. Unfortunately, I think it was one of the most successful political ops, indoctrinating young people into being fearful of climate change, being the existential fear that their life was going to end, and young people.
Well, it's about a self-fulfilling prophecy that we're killing the earth and everything's going to collapse and all the cities are going to burn down and deadly viruses are going to kill you while they're making the deadly viruses, and they don't cut back the trees, leave the electricity on, and then designate the Palisades a 50-minute city, and then drain the reservoir, then burn it down. Then the governor declares an emergency, seizes it. You can't have your property back. And then they go, oh, see, we told you fires are coming, climate change. It's all about administrative war against the people, and then turning around and saying it's your fault, it's climate change.
Of course, always blaming us. You talked about this on your show, I believe today, it might have been yesterday. You talked about the mainstream media's op. They're now pretending that they just missed it when Joe Biden was in cognitive decline. You know, all of us could see that from the first moment in 2020, but somehow Jake Tapper wasn't able to see it. You say that this has triggered infighting in the left, that there's not really an heir apparent to the Democrat leadership, if you will. Who do you expect? I mean, I would guess, Gavin Newsom is, he's pretty clearly, obviously angling to be the 2028 Democratic presidential nominee. But who else do you think is going to take charge of that party now that the Biden family is on the outs?
Well, that's right. Gavin Newsom has been on his "I'm not a leftist" apology tour. Total crap. He's a Pelosi operative. We all know that. He's the worst. Talk about American Psycho 2.0. He's the real deal. And then you've got Cuomo coming out, Fredo, and acting like he's a patriot. So those are the smarter ones. But most of them are the AOC Soros wing that just wants more racism, more division, more communism, more terrorism. And now they're all turning on each other that, we didn't know, but you did know. And he had to be in a wheelchair, and Biden had to be shown where to walk and didn't know who he was most days. They're pretending like we didn't know that all along. And now it's known somehow because they're telling us about it. And then they're using it to explain why they lost, not on their policies and not on being discredited, but because of Joe Biden, when they're the ones that thought they could gaslight us into buying it. So nobody is more brainwashed than the people trying to do the brainwashing. They are getting high on their own supply of BS. And so I think it's encouraging that they're not even doing a fake course correction. They're just getting more evil, more deceptive, and people are seeing through that and rejecting them. And so, that's all they've got to offer is, no, we don't want to cut your prescription drug prices in 80%. We're going to try to block it. No, we don't want you to have cheap energy prices. No, we don't want to stop fentanyl coming in. No, we want nuclear war with Russia. No. So it's just wild to see this collection of trash. But they're the synthesis of corruption and decades of it, of worse and worse people getting away with more and more, than them recruiting more and more nasty people. Until now, they are just completely disconnected from reality. And like any cult that gets exposed, they're turning in on themselves and eating their own and becoming more radical. So as long as they can't take us with them, which is a real danger, I don't see the Democratic Party even being around anymore. I don't think they're going to reform themselves. I think they're going to become a regional party and then fall apart. And then I think we'll have to have the rise of a new party, because we need a two-party system, obviously. And I mean, I think on the current trajectory, the Democratic Party is really no more in the next decade.
Interesting. So what do you think the new party would be? You think it would be like America First versus neocons?
Yes, but the neocons aren't even popular enough for that. It might be more kind of like more Republican, populist, free market, libertarian versus Christian, more conservative on social issues split.
So like
I
John
think
Locke versus Edmund Burke.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great.
I would actually hate to see that happen. That would be I wouldn't like that. I think that the Republican Party should stay unified. Of course, I'm more on the Edmund Burke side of the thing. Alex Jones, it was a delight to talk to you. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it, guys. As you know, go subscribe to Alex Jones. Go to Infowars.com. It's really important that you support him over there, because the last time we spoke, the FBI was about to shut down your operations. I'm just glad to see you sitting behind that mic.
Do we have time for me to give you an update, or we need to go?
Yeah, please. Yeah, please do. Please do.
Okay. I've had some people out there say to me, "Oh, Alex, they're not really trying to do this. This is all just hype." Ladies and gentlemen, the court cases, federal and state, are there. It really happens. They really sent the Justice Department U.S. trustee in here without a warrant to try to close the doors May 31st. They really held a fake auction and wouldn't let people that wanted to buy the company come and bid, and then tried to give it to Bloomberg Finance, the Onion. The judge said it was a fraud. That didn't happen. Now they've been in federal court, the quote, Sandy Hook family's Democratic Party group, with their judgment saying, we don't want money in court filings. We want him silenced. And so the judge says, well, if you won't accept a real auction and you don't want that, I don't know what to do. I'll put it back into state court. But we filed, and there's going to be a hearing coming up on June 6th in Houston in federal court, showing all the fraud, showing what I'm saying is crime. And my lawyers say that, which is, you don't say it unless it's like real serious stuff. The big Paul Weiss law firm, all of them, the Justice Department that came into the case, they're able to do that. And it's just been wild. So InfoWars could be shut down. That they want the name. That's not really going to hurt us. We have the Alex Jones Network studios that have been built. And we've got backup systems. And so I haven't announced the new websites and things yet, but those are built and ready. People can follow me on X at Real Alex Jones to find the latest. There's also at AJN Live. Excuse me, good Lord, sneezing live on TV. That happens about every 5 years. Austin's got some killer allergies today. I'm not even really allergy prone, but I've been sneezing a lot. Sorry. And so sorry, Liz. So long story short, Gesundheit. So long story short, this has been an epic 15-round boxing match. I'm never going to give up. My crew hasn't given up. It's become quite a fight, but they've seen us survive so many times. People start saying, really, really, really? Well, look how far Trump survived. Look at what he's been through. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. And they even tried. People don't believe me. Look it up. They even tried to say they own my name and my social media. X had to sue them to block that, remember, just a few months ago. They even tried to get real Alex Jones. Their goal, and they've said this on the courthouse steps everywhere, is to silence me and take me off the air to send a message to everybody else. Well, that's not going to happen. And we're going to stay on the air one way or another, but the best place is on X, Real Alex Jones. And for the time being, Infowars.com/show. And I really appreciate you, Liz. But to all the other media out there, the independent media, I told Trump when they censored me first, used me as patient zero, as they said, to set the precedent that if they demonize me, then sue me, then take me off the internet, that would set the precedent. If they didn't stand up for me, if other conservatives didn't, that they would come for everybody else. And they did. That's a classic tactic of tyrants. But now, I understand it's a lot, but I've shot reports on it. I've explained it. Maybe I should create a website with just the reports and documents about the CIA and the FBI in court admitting they targeted me. And $4-5 million of Justice Department money to the lawsuit during Biden with their fake lawsuit. with HBO producing fake trials where the judges already found me guilty, but I'd be held in contempt if I didn't come, where I couldn't say I was innocent. The fake auctions, the sending armed security without warrants to close the doors, cutting the internet off when I wouldn't leave. And all of this happened, and all of this is on record. And it showed their desperation to get me off the air. But I said back in May when they tried to close the doors and kick me out, and I said, "Where's your court order? I'm calling the police." And the private security said, "You're actually right." Just because some Justice Department official called him and said, "I'm from the Justice Department. I sent you there. Do this. I hired you. Do this." Like Pinkerton security. It wasn't the Pinkertons, but it's like, classic regulators, coming after you. And so all of this went on. And I said in May, I didn't cry because I was being taken off the air. I cried. They were just 5 seconds to be starting to cry, which is really rare. But I've been on air like 24 hours refusing to leave while all this is going on. And so later they just cut the internet. That's a whole nother, it's just, so I had to go to the backup studio. But I cried because I said they're getting ready to kill Trump. They want me off the air because they know I'll challenge their narratives if this goes on. And a month and something later, they tried to kill him in Butler. So I know this isn't about me. It's about all of us. They're not trying to get me, as Trump always says. I'm standing in their way of all of us, my future, my children's future, all of us collectively. I'm standing up for myself, but that means you too. So we're all in this together. So they need to get through me and get through Liz Wheeler and get through Tucker Carlson and get through everybody to get to you. And so that's why I am asking the media, the real media, to understand, folks, that just because the Alamo's been holding out a long time doesn't mean it won't fall. So if you suddenly, I'm gone, people are going to need to go find where I'm at and realize this is a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. And it goes back to when you were taken off of Twitter, I think, that they chose you so that they could try to move the Overton window to get to everybody else. And
they said that. They went on MSNBC and said, when we're done getting Jones, we're going to get Tucker Carlson next.
Yeah. And I think it was a realignment moment for me to see which conservatives were able to recognize that and willing to stand up for you in that moment, and which ones were too, snooty to want to be associated with you to actually defend you against what they were doing to you. And everything that we predicted at that time has actually come to pass. Again, go to Infowars.com or go to Real Alex Jones on X and follow along. Like I said, we talked about this. I think it was late last July or August, and they were getting ready to stage that fake auction. So please let us know what happens on June 6th. We are all interested, and we do stand with you. So appreciate you being here, and good luck with that.
Thank you, Liz. God bless you.
Thank you. All right, guys. Before we go, I want to take a moment just to talk about where we are right now. And when I say we, I mean what I mentioned to Alex earlier in the show, that we have this critically important role that we're playing in this Trump administration, very different than what everyday citizens, because that's what we are. We're not government bureaucrats. We're not elected officials. We are the people. And we have a very different role to play in this administration than any administration that I've ever experienced in my lifetime. Because we must be involved in not just, once or twice a year when a big piece of legislation or a spending bill comes up, not even just on the day-to-day basis, on the hour-to-hour, minute-by-minute, our voices make a difference. I have sources all throughout the U.S. government in very high-ranking positions that tell me how much your voice impacts the trajectory of the policy, from President Trump's executive orders to what Congress does or does not do, to what the agencies either regulate or deregulate. Your voice makes a difference. They listen to you. They watch what you're saying and they react to that. And that's why I want to talk to you. That's why Blaze TV actually exists, because we're not just alternative media because the mainstream media sucks. We are, and they are, but we are the home, the stronghold for the movement, right? When you subscribe to Blaze TV, you're not just subscribing to content, you are committing yourself to being part of this movement with us. You are the lifeblood of this movement. You are the reason that the Trump administration is so successful this time at a rate that we have never seen before in our lifetime. So I ask you to join us if you're not already. Go to blazetv.com/Liz. If you use my promo code at checkout, then you can get an exclusive discount. It's just $8 a month, which if you're a mathy kind of person, that's about the price of the fancy cup of coffee you had on your way to work this morning. $8 a month, you can be part of this movement too. And your involvement is critically important. blazetv.com/Liz, promo code Liz. Make sure you're also subscribed to the show, youtube.com/Liz Wheeler. I know they censor us a lot over there. So make sure you're subscribed on X too, x.com/Liz_Wheeler. We're also on Facebook. We're on Rumble, anywhere that you can find your podcast. We have video on Spotify now. So go ahead and subscribe over there too. It's a great way to watch. They have this new feature on Spotify that you can comment under the individual episodes. And I really appreciate all of you who have been doing that. So make sure you subscribe over there as well. Thank you for watching today. Thank you for listening. I'm Liz Wheeler. This is The Liz Wheeler Show.